Back with Martin Biron, Jets and Stars tonight, Marty. Two top teams in the West. Now, after the trade deadline, which of these two teams do you think is the bigger threat to win it all?
Well, I'm looking at the Dallas Stars. I know the Jets are a really, really strong team, but when you add a player like Mikko Rantanen, you obviously are going to put yourself a little bit ahead of everybody else. And look, the Jets, last year was an early exit to the Colorado Avalanche. So when I look at, what have you done lately in the playoffs especially, I'm thinking, well, the Dallas Stars have been to the conference finals the last two seasons. They have that experience behind them, and they added a really strong forward in Mikko Rantanen, and not only did they add him, they extended him. So obviously Mikko Rantanen is thinking, well, I want to be here for a long time. I want to make it my presence known right away. He's had two really strong games with the Dallas Stars. So I'm going to give the edge to the Stars. But look, the Jets are not a team that are going to roll over and say, oh, well, Colorado got better and Dallas got better and whoa us. Look, the Jets made a couple of acquisitions. Tanev is going to help him up front, and that's a good acquisition. But I still think that it's all about Scheifele, and it's all about Kyle Connor, and it's all about Nick Ehlers and Gabe Vilardi. Those guys, the way that they've been playing this year, if they carry that into the playoffs, they are going to be a threat to anyone in the Western Conference. But as we speak today, I think the Dallas Stars have just a little bit more of an edge over the Winnipeg Jets when it comes down to being the biggest threat in the Western Conference.
Okay, let's talk about your specific area of expertise. That's in goal. Connor Hellebuyck is likely going to win his third Vezina Trophy this year. But Jake Oettinger is no slouch either. He's in the top 10 with a .248 goals against average this season. If these two met in the playoffs, how big of an advantage would the Jets have in goal?
I'm going to give the Jets a slight advantage. Obviously, Connor Hellebuyck is number one this season in goals saved above expectation. But that's regular season. It comes down to my point. What have you done lately for me, and especially in the playoffs? And I look at last year's playoff performance by Connor Hellebuyck, and I'm like, okay, you got to show me now this year that you can take a step forward. He did experience playoff atmosphere type of hockey at the Four Nations faceoff and performed really well. So I'm thinking this is a next step forward. But Jake Oettinger this year is 28 in goals saved above expectation. So there's a big gap between Connor Hellebuyck and Jake Oettinger in the regular season. But let's take a look at last year's playoff number. Jake Oettinger was third in the NHL in the playoffs in goals saved above expectation. Connor Hellebuyck, 27 in the playoffs. And there was 27 goalies that played in the playoffs, so he was last. So can you say that Hellebuyck has an edge? Yes. This season, he's at the edge. But when we get to the playoffs, I think there's still an edge for Hellebuyck, but it's not a great edge. It's just a slight edge that, you know what, at any moment that can go either way. So I still give Hellebuyck the benefit of the doubt in this one, but in the playoffs, he's going to have to show it to me in April this year.
And for what it's worth on FanDuel, 9 teams have better odds to win the Stanley Cup than Winnipeg does. One of those teams, Dallas, is sitting second on the list behind only the Florida Panthers. Jets and Stars pregame begins right after SportsCenter, 6:30 Central on TSN 3.